Hello everyone. So another limited banner was just announced for Atelier Resleriana, and this will be the Alchemist of Salburg Legend Fest with featuring Lily and Ellie. So you might be thinking, okay, that was really fast. Why did that come out so soon? This is actually the same pace as the Japanese server had for events, so it's not catch up or anything like that. It's exactly the same. So it's not like too fast or anything. It might feel fast. Thankfully for free-to-play players, this banner will be a skip for the units, so if you don't have any gems, don't worry. You can continue saving them up. You're not missing too much by not being able to pull here like the previous two banners with very good units. And so the banner features Lily and Ellie. Lily is a lightning breaker. Ellie is a wind supporter. I will get more into their kits near the end of the video. And there is also a Memoria. It's a area stun damage Memoria, so it's very decent as high speed as well, I believe. This Memoria, very good if you manage to get it, but again, Memoria aren't that great until, like, the effects on them aren't that great until you have them unlocked, until you have multiple copies for the levels, so it's not too worth pulling specifically for, but it is a good Memoria if you do get multiple copies somehow. And it's good otherwise as well, but it's not like amazing. It's just very solid. So why is it called the Alchemist of Salburg? And I guess I'll give a little history lesson on that. So the very first Atelier game, released in 1998, yes, the series is actually that old, was Atelier Mari, the Alchemist of Salburg. Salburg being, you know, the fictional country that she lives in. And that's sort of the game that kicked everything off. And then there are the sequel games, Atelier Lily, which Lily is from, and Atelier Ellie, which Ellie is from. And so this banner focuses on Salburg alchemists, which are basically alchemists from the first three Atelier games in the 90s. And coming with this banner, there will be an event. This will be better than the event we had last time for the Sophie banner. It will have an event story along with it that follows these three alchemists. And so if you have played the Salburg games, the event is pretty funny. It's pretty good. You get to see these characters. It is an event story. It's not part of the main story, so it's separate. Event stories in Resleriana are not fully voiced like the main story is. So that's one thing to think about, but we do get them very frequently from now on. I believe every content update, or almost every content update from now on, will have either an event story or a new main story chapter. So if you like the story in this game, look forward to that. Alongside that, as part of the event, we will also be getting event recipes. And you may have noticed, you know, in your recipe book, there is this event tab down here that's been locked. We will be getting event recipes. And that's the really exciting part of this event for like progression in this game, and like just like mechanically for, you know, getting stronger and everything like that. Event recipes are a fantastic source of items in this game, and I guess I'll just go over them real quick and sort of explain like why they're good and why you should be excited about them. We will be getting recipes with every event from now on, but this is the first batch of them and they're pretty good. So the event has 6 recipes, 2 weapons, 2 armors, and 2 accessories, and each of these items is focused on strengthening one of the banner units, right? So there is a supporter weapon, a supporter armor, a supporter accessory. That's these 3. And then these 3 items are focused on breakers or lightning breakers. So the Ellie weapon, the Ellie items, the supporter items, they don't have to be used on Ellie, but they're decent for Ellie. The weapon, it's a hybrid magic attack physical weapon that gives buff effect for supporters, specifically for supporters. This weapon is one of the best supporter weapons we have even on the Japanese server nowadays. So very good, like future-proofed weapon. You definitely want to make a lot of these, but maybe not quite yet. because it's not super useful until we get really strong buff supporters like Liddy or Pravda, but it is very strong. The armor is physical resistance for supporters. It's not very good, kind of a skip. And the accessory is elemental resistance for supporters. It is alright as a supporter accessory because we don't have many options for them. And then the breaker items. The weapon is break damage for lightning breakers. So specifically for Lily, this weapon won't really have an effect on anyone else because we don't have other lightning breakers yet. It's decent for Sophie, I guess, because it's cheap. Event recipes are very cheap. There are better weapons objectively for Sophie, but this one's easy to make and it does give her a little bit of a bonus, so it's okay. Then the armor is status effect resistance for lightning characters. This is pretty niche. When it's good, but generally you don't need status effect resistance. It's not a super desired stat, and also it's only for lightning characters, so that's kind of weak. And then we have the most exciting recipe of all, which is this muffler, the scarf, and it is an accessory that increases break damage for breakers, not just lightning breakers, all breakers. And this is going to be the accessory that you're making the most of because it does have that stun damage effect on it, and you can easily spam it to make a very good one for more stun damage for your breakers. If you've been playing endgame content at all, you know how important breakers are and how important getting that extra stun damage is for meeting those thresholds. So this recipe is super exciting. And you're probably wondering, like, just how spammable are these? Event recipes are really when we're able to like craft a lot. So event recipes each cost 20 of the event materials. That'll be a thing basically forever. And how many event materials do we get? Well, without spending cookies, you can expect thousands throughout the course of the event if you're using all of your natural stamina. And I think on average, without spending cookies, you'll be able to craft about 400 to 600 items out of your event materials. So it's a lot. It's a lot of crafting. You will be able to make a lot of these items. Like, most of you probably haven't even done 400 syntheses period at this point. So yeah, you get a lot of materials for these recipes. And because some of them are very good, that's, you know, that's great. They're very easily spammable so that you can get very good traits on them very easily. And we will have more strong recipes coming from future events. So just as a little sneak peek, the next event after this one, I believe it was Halloween, right? And Halloween also has some very strong recipes if we do get it, such as, you know, a best in slot attacker weapon. So look forward to event recipes. They're going to be absolutely crucial in increasing the power of your team going forward. So yeah, great time to, you know, be playing the game actively and piling up those materials. And I guess now that we've gone over the important part of the event, on to the less important part, which is the banner characters. In my opinion, the banner on this event is a hard skip, especially for free-to-play. Like, if you're free-to-play, there's an argument for not even buying the tickets. I probably won't. So Lily herself, she's not a terrible unit. She is just a standard area breaker. She's lightning, so she has different coverage than what we have now. It's a new element, so, you know, having breakers in a ton of different elements is good for that coverage, and we don't get another lightning breaker for months. But you don't really need that coverage for most of the content outside of Affinity Tower. So it's not really worth aiming for. She doesn't really do anything better than the current area breakers we have, such as Shelly, Mari, Pravda. She's about even with them. Her speed is very middle, and her skills are kind of whatever. Like, she does have this support debuff on her second skill, which, you know, increases the damage enemies take for the rest of the battle. But it's a low value to start with. It ramps up over 3 turns. And it loses a lot of break power because of this, and you really want your breakers to do break damage, to stun enemies effectively. So like Shalistera's power on the skill is like in the 140s because of the effect on the skill. Hers goes down to 122. She does have a combo where you use her skill 1, she gets extra break damage, and then her area break skill is a bit more potent. However, that's a little bit slow when you really want enemies broken on the first turn. And then her burst is also area break. And normally on your area breakers, you want their burst to be single target so that, you know, there's a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember. You basically want that extra utility. Like, you're already doing area break with skill 2, you don't need area break on the burst. You would rather have single target break for those enemies with, you know, larger break bars. So the burst just isn't very good. The paralysis gimmick doesn't really matter. For her passives, she does have plus 5% break damage for your entire party. However, this value is just too low to be that meaningful. So yeah. She's a standard area breaker, not really anything special. Don't recommend pulling specifically for her, but she is a decent unit, a good addition to your roster if you do happen to get her. And then we have Ellie. And I'm going to rant about Ellie a little bit because she is by far the worst unit in the game. Seriously, like actually worthless. I hate her. I wish she was better. And she is a wind supporter. And she probably doesn't look terrible at first glance. However, she is quite bad, I assure you. So her first skill, her skill 1, she gives all allies a break damage buff when she uses it, which is okay. She's not a breaker, but she can support breakers like Lily. But there's a reason this is not good, and I'll explain that after I'm done going through all of her skills. Her second skill is a support ability. It gives a buff of magic attack plus 12% to all allies for 2 turns, and also magic defense. It also has a small heal attached, 5% of the target's HP to all allies. If you've used Lightning Resna, you know that this is basically irrelevant. It's not an actual recovery skill that scales off of her magic attack and has an actual like recovery power. It's just a flat 5%, so there's not any good ways to scale it. This doesn't damage enemies, which is generally good for supporters. But yeah, the buff is fairly mediocre at only 12% magic attack. And you can stack it twice, but in practice, you won't really be stacking it twice very often. And then her burst, it recovers 50% of the item gauge. And this just isn't very good because normally when you're using items, you're trying to use your items to light up with the burst panel for your attackers. So you want to get your like burst panel on your attacker, use all your items, and then burst. So if you're using the burst panel to get your item gauge back, that's not really very synergistic, is it? Because you probably won't have another burst panel for a while to use your items on. And, you know, by the time you would have gotten that burst panel, your items would be up again anyways. So it's just kind of not very good. It can help for like sustaining more with your items, I guess. But if you're relying on items for a sustain comp, then you're going to die once they run out anyways. And generally the problem with like long-term item usage in the game is the fact that items have limited uses, being limited to 2 uses for buff items or 3 for healing and attack items. So getting your item gauge back faster just doesn't really help that much when you're more gated by item uses than the actual gauge itself. So yeah, this burst is just not very useful in practice. If you could get item gauge on your second skill, you know, if you didn't require a burst to do it, it would be a bit better, but overall not that great. And then the reason that she is absolutely abysmal, the reason why her entire kit falls apart, is this value right here. Her second skill has a wait time of 275. I've talked about this before on the channel, but just as a little refresher, the starting turn order is not based solely on speed, which by the way, Ellie is a fairly slow character in the lowest tier, in the lowest speed bracket at 224. It's not based solely on speed, but also based on the wait time of skill 2. And because she has a long wait time on her skill 2, she will basically always be going last. If you've ever used Fierce or Yudi, you know how this works. They are slow as heck because of this 275 wait time. So this break damage buff might be nice, but you can't actually give it to your breakers for their first turn because Ellie will never be faster than them. It might be nice to stack this buff, but you will basically never be able to stack it because of this wait time. All of your other characters will get more turns before Ellie gets a second turn, and this buff is going to fall off of them. And it's a pretty low value to begin with. So this is the reason that Ellie is completely unusable, and it's because she is just so slow. They also could have, made this buff a higher value. It wouldn't have been broken. They could have made this recover the entire item gauge. It still wouldn't be good. Like, she could get a lot of changes, and even if she was faster, she would still be very mediocre, but she wouldn't be completely unusable, I guess. But yeah, basically, she was made early on. I think they were afraid of making her too powerful. They didn't know how to balance a good support unit, and they just kind of failed. They missed the mark, and she became really, really, really underpowered instead of like mediocre, or even like instead of usable or even mediocre. She's just really, really, really underpowered. So yeah. Funny story also, I did buy tickets for this event on the JP server, on my JP account, and I got Ellie twice. Really unfortunate. It's a 0.5% chance to get her. I got her twice. I was like, I'm pretty salty about her because of that, because I've never been able to use her. Even in the Wind Affinity Tower, she is not good, which the Affinity Towers, are where the weaker units and their elements, are able to shine. Like even characters like Ixel are quite useful in the Fire Tower, but even in the Wind Tower, Ellie's just not very good. So yeah, a little salty about that, but that's just how it goes, right? Anyways, that should be about it for the Salburg banner. I hope you're looking forward to the event. The event will be great. The banner, not so much, but it does give you time to stock up on gems again and sort of save them. And maybe you'll get Lily or the Memoria off your daily pulls and be super happy. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for today. I'll see you all in the next one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment if you're looking forward to the banner. Game's really fun and it just gets better from here. So yeah, I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.